Well, we're gonna watch, since Destiny is down right now, guys, we're gonna watch Bife's video right now. And it's about Edge of Fate reveal. So this is the video I want us to take a look at. But bring your popcorn back, guys. This is going to be 14 minutes of Bife. I'm sure he's going to give us some insight into the whole 9 thing. So I'm surprised y'all didn't do a bet.
Greetings, Guardians. My name is Bife here. Well, very quick one today, and I'm doing this off the cuff, no script, no nothing. Because Bungie just tweeted something. Yeah, there's a new expansion that's coming along. So to all those of you who sat there and were like, man, it's so sad, Destiny's story is over forever. Whilst the rest of us were screaming, being like, they've told us about Frontiers, it exists. Yeah, here's your first physical bit of proof aside from the whole Gestures to the Frontiers announcement situation. Anyway, whatever the case, it appears this is what Apollo was meant to be. Edge of Fate. And there are immediately a few things you can tell from this particular image that has been teased. First of all, take a look just behind the text. Just really zoom in and squint. That's the 9's logo. For those of you who don't know, by the way, that is the 9 logo because each of those 3 circles is divided into a total of 9 parts. One circle has 2 parts, another has 3, and the last has 4, and 2 plus 3 plus 4 is 9. Much more prominently, though, we see that it is set at the backdrop of what can probably be described as a singularity, and that leads us to some very interesting ideas. For those of you who have not been tuned in with the 9 lore, I'm going to go over that really briefly and just explain why I think this leads us into the next story of Destiny and some rather dramatic implications from it. Essentially, the 9 are interesting because they have been split down the middle for a while. They exist predominantly because of us. However, there is one group that thinks that in order to go on existing, they should try and support us as much as possible. This is a group of 5. This is the same group that sent Xur and the Emissary and gives us all these weapons that we can use. And then there is another group, a group of 4, and they believe they need to cut their existence away from us. They need to make it so they no longer depend on us. And what they've been doing in order to do that is to try and form a singularity. This is very much the SparkNotes version of the lore, but the attempt to build a singularity to transcend into a higher reality is something that the 9 have been attempting for a while. And as a result, if they are successful, well, they would no longer need to rely on us to exist. But, of course, if this is a singularity in the sense that we understand it, a literal black hole, then, well, there goes the whole system, and potentially a lot of other stuff. So the implications here are really clear. If we're going to sit there and see the 9 enact their plan, we might see a kind of civil war between those 2 groups. Or we might see the group of 5 finally coalesce with the group of 4, and then as a united force they would be attempting to enact this plan. Inevitably, this has come along, and this is something we can see developing now.
Dude, imagine though. Imagine if we do have like a civil war between the 9. This new entity steps up. It becomes, I guess in this case, the 10. And now we have a civil war happening between the 9. And then we get to see maybe one of the 9 get taken out, get slain. Like, what does that even involve? I'm on the edge of my fate. Destiny Civil War. We will become one of the 10. Yeah, it's just so mysterious to me, guys. I don't know. I understand. You've got the 5 who've been giving us all these goodies for years via Xur. And then you've got the 4 that want to go independent, essentially. The question is which one is really right and which one's really wrong? I mean, to be self-sustainable and break away and not be dependent on us in any kind of way, I think it's the smarter choice. The 4 want us dead, though? Oh, the 4 actively want us dead? Oh, I didn't know that. Really? I thought they were just like, we just want to go do our own thing. They want to not need us to be alive. Yeah, but that's a big difference between not wanting to depend on us and actually wanting us dead. Now, the 4 really don't like us. Oh, shit, though. Who was the one? Guys, do we know which one was the one that allowed Gaul to enter Earth's orbit and catch us with our pants down? Like, which one of the 9, if we could give them a name, who was it? We don't.
And this is something we can see developing now thanks to the death of the Witness. And more importantly, we did get a little preview to this. In particular, we got a preview thanks to the Division sidearm. This basically goes over that great Division between the voices within that chorus of 5 and the chorus of 4. But that then leads us to another really interesting idea, which is simply that we've been getting another teaser to this, Rite of the Nine. Yes, the Rite of the Nine is going to be coming along and giving us those opportunities to run 3 dungeons and gain some exclusive loot from them. However, this reprised loot of all those 12 dungeon weapons that's going to be on offer also includes a new origin trait. And that origin trait? It's called Gravity Well, if memory serves correctly. That's got to be interesting. If this is an expansion that is predominantly revolving around the 9 though, I want to go ahead and just temper some expectations really quickly, because there are going to be some notes about whether or not we might see something entirely bespoke and new within Destiny. And whilst it's likely that we will see many of the same things that we'd get with a typical expansion, think say a new explorable destination, probably a new raid, some kind of endgame activity, I imagine that we're not going to see anything along the lines of, say, an enemy faction. And the reason I say that is because the 9 are just so undefined. I mean, that's not just what's gone on with them in the game, that's literally their lore. They struggle to give themselves physical forms. The entire point of Xur and the Emissary is that, well, they're experiments in that endeavor. And previous experiments? Well, take a look at the lore of the Cocytus Gates. They have literally just created a bunch of protons, and then matter, and then something that was alive but couldn't breathe. The 9 are not very good at this. Do not expect an entire new enemy faction. That being said, that does not mean that the 9 won't necessarily manifest themselves in the world around us. They can do that, and they can do it in some strange ways. We know that the 9 have some control over the Taken, and for that matter, they have some control over the Drifter, who might also be involved if the 9 are indeed at the heart of this story.
That big thing behind his ship, right?
That being said, he was in Heresy, and it isn't always the case that voice actors are used in back-to-back releases, so I'm not totally sure on that one. Speaking of the Drifter though, he carries with them another great example of the fact that the 9 are able to manifest their power and change the world around them, and that's the Hall. I don't necessarily know if we're going to be going inside the Hall for this expansion, but it is a distinct possibility. After all, it's just this kind of engine of possibility, where the 9 could create whatever they want. That's kind of how they make the Prophecy Dungeon for us. The really awesome thing about this being a potential 9 expansion is that there is the possibility for mystery, for strangeness, and for the unknown. The 9 are one of the most unexplored pieces of Destiny's lore, and they are one of the least well understood pieces of Destiny's lore. They go all the way back to the foundation of the game, and they in themselves are a deep-seated Bungie lore reference. But putting all that aside, if you just want to go ahead and take a look at the kind of visual aesthetic that this is going to inspire, then you need only look at Prophecy. Prophecy, which to this day I think is arguably still one of the best dungeons in terms of its visual aesthetic. I mean, it's really hard to ignore stuff like Rainbow Road, the encounter design and aesthetic of the Cube, and even the way that it used its environments to tell stories about what was going to happen with the Season of Arrival's conclusion and the era of darkness that was soon to come. For the first step in Frontiers, it also makes at least a little sense that we would be exploring a topic like the 9. The Light and Dark saga is over, and the 9 have not expressly been on either side in this conflict to a complete point of loyalty. There was one group that wanted nothing to do with us, and another group that supported us. But they were also the ones who initially told us that light and darkness are not necessarily forces of evil or good, and that either of them is simply a force of power. This, I think, is another kind of subliminal way of Bungie sitting there and saying, if we're going to step into this new age of Destiny, we're going to do it starting off with something that isn't necessarily tied to either. And then, of course, there is the further question, what the hell are we going to be doing with the destination on this? If the 9 are, as is commonly theorized, linked in with the planets of the solar system, that means we might not necessarily be going too far beyond its bounds. It doesn't mean that we won't be exploring strange places, though. Even within our system, there are dozens of unexplored moons, plenty of large planetoids, and even asteroids out in the asteroid belt that just haven't been properly explored yet. So, all things considered, it's hard to tell. But I think that it would be correct to say that wherever we do end up going, it's bound to be an interesting destination. I'm not expecting prophecy visuals.
What if Frontiers, or whatever the new destination is supposed to be, what is the possibility that it isn't even a planet? It could just be like some like dreaming city, like other realm like area, different dimension. If we go through a wormhole, it could be an alternate Earth. Well, I'm not actually saying like I would want, because that to me is just, I don't know if I would gel with that. Like, it's like, oh, now we have this different version of the EDZ or our other destinations we have in the game. And like, you know, they could be aesthetically different and could be mirrored or something like that with different enemies. But to me, it wouldn't hit. Without a doubt, we need a new destination. The question is just like, what is that destination? I'm still convinced we're going to fix up the Dreadnought and we're going to drive that thing right into a black hole. I don't know why. It just sounds right. Sounds cool. I mean, guys, you're in space right now. You have an opportunity to know what's inside of a black hole. Would you drive into it? I guess it depends on what point in my life. But I mean, like, if you could just make a hard left and just go straight into that bitch, I think I would. Is there no coming back? No coming back. Would you do it if you knew there was no coming back? It's so interesting because, like, you know, they say that whenever you approach a black hole, you don't actually see, like, say you were in a space shuttle and you were going straight into a black hole. What you would see is not someone drive into a black hole, but instead you would see the shuttle approach and then it would just stop. And then it would slowly, or at least the video I watched said you would slowly fade away, because at that point you reach the point where light can't escape. You can't even see anything past that point. Time slows the closer you get. I love how we just like accept that kind of shit, right? Can we just acknowledge how fucking crazy that sounds though? I still haven't wrapped my head around it. You can go to a planet that has crazy gravity and time passes differently there than it would in other places. Is that not fucking crazy? All right, let's get back on topic.
It's 24/7, but maybe as we get closer and things become more surreal, things will continue to get weirder and more wonderful. With this, though, I do have a bit of a concern, and that is simply this notion that the Nine are something which is very lore-dense. Now, this is something which I want to go ahead and say is, just from my perspective, it's entirely possible that the team at Bungie will be able to go ahead and pull this off. However, I am concerned that a story about the Nine to start off this new saga of Destiny is going to be a somewhat tricky one to understand. It's entirely possible that Bungie could simply use that depth as a means of pulling people in, but if you're going to try and make this a jumping on point for the franchise, as for some it might be, then you've got to remember to start slow and to use the fundamentals of the story to not get too crazy. We can't sit there and immediately jump into the idea of dark matter dust. However, there are definitely some key points about the Nine that need to be communicated. And, well, we need to not lose players along the way.
God, that's such a great point. Because the Nine, you've got just so much mystery around the Nine that you can't just onboard us within like mission 1 of this shit. You know what I mean? Like what Apollo or Edge of Fate, whatever. Like it can't just be like, oh yeah, this mysterious entity that you literally know almost next to nothing to. Here it is. Mission 1. Now you're picking up your quest here from this entity that's tied to the Nine and blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm coming from? Like there's gonna have to be a lot of depth in explaining what it is that they're trying to do, especially this new taken entity, things like that. I hate how sometimes in the past we have had situations where Bungie just kind of throws you in and then you're like one mission deep and you're like, oh, we're just here right now. Like we're just fucking here. You know what I mean? Like there's no lead up, no build up. You know what I'm coming from? And it's like, they're working from, you gotta think about their head space is in maybe a narrative point, you know, from many seasons ago. And so like they're seamlessly going from that information directly into the new information, the new content drop. And the problem with that is they've had the luxury of being immersed into that old information. We have not. We're coming from Heresy. You know, we're coming from Revenant and Echoes and Final Shape. So this can't be another Veil situation is what I'm saying. Which the Veil, by the way, is even stranger because that just came out of nowhere. And then the explanation was just like, and then almost I felt like we were getting gaslit inside of Destiny because we would be walking around just be like, so what's the Veil? And like all the NPCs are like, you don't know what the Veil is? Oh, the Veil? It's the Veil. How do you not fucking know? How are you a dumbass? Did you not just hear what I just said about the Veil being the Veil? The Veil is the Veil and does Veil things.
This, I think, is going to be one of the toughest challenges for Bungie. That and also getting back lapsed players. I have to say that Edge of Fate is an awesome name for it. I love the idea. But I also wonder whether this is going to be something that can appeal to players who have lapsed. That I think is the biggest challenge, and I think that it's so large that there's no way Bungie isn't aware of it. Ultimately though, we have to wait and see. But for what it's worth, I think there is something to be noted about heresy. It pertains to something that I saw recently from a fellow content creator who I've not actually spoken to, but I've definitely seen videos from now. Their name is White Light, and recently they made a video about how they fell out of love with Destiny, which they call in the title their favorite game. There is a lot of passion that you can tell comes from a real Destiny fan who has lapsed in the time being. And, well, there's one sentence in there that really resonates with me. It was simply that we've moved from questions to answers. The 9 are nothing but questions. And I think this is an opportunity for Bungie to introduce more of them. And I do hope that whilst there is a satisfying conclusion to whatever story is offered, that we do start this new era with more questions. Questions.
Dude, I was just thinking about this earlier. Even when it comes to TV shows, book series, video games, sometimes I feel like a writer can just start cooking. They can just get to cooking. They're like, oh my God, they're building the world building. They're setting up all the mysteries, and the whole time you're consuming the content, you're like, geez, holy shit, this man's cooking. Or she's cooking right now. And then they get to a point where they have to bring it all together to give it a conclusion. And that's where things fall apart. That's where shit goes haywire. And that's why George R.R. Martin will never be alive with the ending to Game of Thrones. It's never going to happen. He's going to make it. That shit, I'm telling you, it's going to be under his bed. He's already gotten written, but he doesn't want to deal with everyone's bullshit. And so he's going to die. And there it's going to be, and then we're going to get the ending. It's probably going to be ass, but it's like you reach a certain point where you world build so much that you just find yourself boxed in, and you're like, how do I tie this all back together? And then the other side of things is for Destiny specifically. The thing that's always the biggest letdown is when the mystery outweighs the journey. I mean, for us, that's what we're paying for. We're paying for the journey. The mystery sometimes is more appealing than the actual journey itself. And so if that happens multiple times, you have people like White Light and others go, well, why would I pay for the journey anymore? I'll let it just live on as a mystery in my head. I will say this, in my time talking with writers, a lot of people throw out statements like, writers, dude, there's just shit, man. They just need to write better. It ain't easy, man. It is incredibly important to find the right people and to keep the right people and to set up a framework for your story that makes sense and stick to that timeline. I think nothing fucks up story more than executives showing up saying, hey, I need you to pencil in a year of content. You know how fucking crazy that is? But I guarantee you it has happened. In Destiny's case, it has definitely happened. Yeah, listen, we need a year of content. Let's make some shit up. We need a little bit of space here. Again, every writer's different, right? Every writer's different. Stephen King wakes up every day, and I think his thing is he writes 10 pages a day, no matter what. But other writers have also said that what's very important is to write the ending first. You write the ending. So you set up your outline, then you write the ending, and then you begin writing everything else so that you know where you're needing to tie things in. That doesn't mean you can't go and change the ending, tweak the ending, but you definitively set in your head, here's how I want this journey to end. The problem is like the Final Shape was our ending in Destiny. It really was. Bungie is, the writers, the Destiny team itself, they're in this post-Thanos world where people are not going to be as interested because they've reached the conclusion. How do you get people interested again? I hope the Baldur's Gate lady cooks. I will say Allison, if there's anyone that I'm putting my faith in, it is Allison. She comes from BG3. She's essentially running the narrative now for Destiny 2. I'm willing to see what she's going to do and how she's going to cook. It's no easy task. Could she write a story about Mara and getting in a hot tub? That's actually a great question, or at least pencil a scene in. Just a scene, a fetch quest. We're dropping something off, you know what I mean? Or we're thinking we're showing up to see Crow or something, I don't know. Oh, excuse me, Mara, we didn't know you happen to be in here at this very moment. Let me just say, scenes like that would not hurt. I feel like Bungie's like, no, we can't do stuff like that. What about the children? You know what I'm saying? That's their answer. We can't have proxy chat because what about the children, the toxicity? Bungie, let it happen. Our demographic here is old anyways. All right, everybody here is, 20 plus. It's fine. And I can promise you, them kids saying all kinds of terrible shit to each other every day. That proxy chat, if anything, as kids, we love fucking voice chat. I fucking love Xbox Live. You know, my friends and I, we fucking get on that mic and we would light it up, dude. We lose or win, man. We would light it up. That's all right. That's just part of it. Is it Marathon 18 plus? It is 18 plus, but they still don't want to do proxy chat. They may still add. They still don't want to do it. All right, let's finish watching this though.
Are what drive us. Questions are what Destiny has been lacking for a long time, because questions represent mystery, and they represent a world that might be bigger than us, more unknown than us, something that we have to challenge and conquer, and might not even succeed against. This is something that I think was initially done with Heresy. For the first time in ages, there's a lore mystery afoot with the unknown master, the Lord of Every Nothing, that doesn't really have an answer. We haven't seen it properly. We've just seen its influence and its effects. We don't truly know what's going on with it. Then there are further bits and pieces of lore that have been built up still. The potential influence that the Winnower may or may not have, what the relationship of Oryx was like to the Winnower and then to the Witness, what caused Oryx's change of heart that made him abandon certain ways of the sword logic. These are questions, and they don't have answers. And that's good, because with these fundamental moves forward in the plot, I can speculate and I can talk about it all I want, but ultimately, with Heresy having concluded, we still don't have all the answers. And sometimes that's how it should be. And no, I'm not saying that every single time we run through a campaign, we should get our allotted single veil or radial mast. No, God no, absolutely not. What I would say...
Again, the veil and the radio mask was not the problem. The problem was that all of the characters walked around and essentially gave off the vibe that we should just know what those things are. There was no process of digesting this information. By the way, that's another thing that Lightfall really threw me off. It was just like, hey, there's this place called Neomuna. Oh my God, here's these freaking people. Here's Cloud Striders. Here's the veil. And it's like, there's no moment for like us to just be like, whoa. There's a lot happening right now. This is a lot to take in. Let's just kind of digest this. You know what I mean? Instead, it's just Osiris just like running forward with no fucking light. It's like chasing after the guy who runs away from the old folks home, man. I mean, that was Lightfall. Oh yeah, anyway, here's Strand. Right. Dude, like even that, it's just like, here's Strand. And then it's like Osiris is like, I'm gonna teach you how to use Strand. Call me Mr. Miyagi. We're gonna have this Karate Kid scene right now, and you're gonna learn this shit 60 seconds or less. What?
Is that if you're looking at something in Destiny and it is providing you with a clear answer at the end of a campaign, that's good. But if you're looking at something in the lore that hints at something far off or something removed from your current context, we don't need an answer to that all the time. And that's nice. The 9 can provide plenty of template for this. And you know what? Fascinated to see what Bungie does with it. So, that's my hope. Let's all make a little prayer that Edge of Fate is more questions than it is answers. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and...
I did, Bife. Bife's bringing on a great point. Have mystery. Don't just land us into the answer. Your answer, Bungie. Have mystery. This is there's been a lot of build up to this faction. It's been behind the scenes for so long.
And with all that being said, if you did, go ahead and hit subscribe and the bell next to subscribe to turn on email notifications.
Guys, please go check out this video from Bife. Bife, thank you so... I gotta listen to the outro. The outro's so good.
Remember, if you did like it, go ahead and leave a like and leave your thoughts down below in the comments section. But as per usual, know that your viewership, as always, is quite enough for me. And that in the meantime, my name is Bife. Rodacia Arastra. I'll see you, Starside.
Hot! Yeah, man. Yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting how Bungie presents this to us. I'm surprised Bife didn't mention the Taken look of this. I think everybody is realizing this though too, right? Like I'm not the only one going crazy here. Like you see these 9 symbols and they have like a Taken-esque effect to them. Maybe you did mention it. Maybe we missed it. But anyways, what if this new entity takes the 9? You know what I'm saying? Because it's not Taken. Y'all don't think it is? It's Taken. 1000%. Y'all don't think it looks like Taken energy to you? Straight, it looks like Taken energy. I don't know, guys. I feel like this is like a Taken effect, but who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. We'll know May the 6th, and we'll see if Milo's theory is correct. If we get some sort of like blog post April the 30th. Will we get a Taken subclass? I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get a new subclass yet, but I don't know, man. There's There's so many things. We're in a weird situation inside of Destiny because it's like we just got Prismatic, which is the merging of all the subclasses. You know what I mean? Well, listen, I think Destiny are like subclasses and stuff. If we ever got a Destiny 3, I would love to see, I'm a little biased here, but I would love to see the ascension trees within Destiny. And then like essentially have a similar layout to Path of Exile.
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.